Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Today, we're learning how to make a Tuftex Square Wall. I'm Alexis from Fanfaire, and Alyssa is going to be hosting us. So go ahead, Alyssa, take it away.
Hi, everybody. I'm Alissa from Party Lane and NWI Party in Northwest Indiana near the Chicagoland area. Yeah, we're going to be doing a Tuftex wall. Okay, so there are two ways that I know to do this also, but I do have a preferred way, and then I'll go over what my preferred way is the way that I'm going to build, but I'm going to show you the other way first. So when we talk about materials, you're going to be getting the Tuftex wall. You're going to be getting the Tuftex squares. So all of the Tuftex squares are two sides where they are, like I'm using pink today. So it's going to be pink on the front side and hot pink on the back side. Some of the other ones like black has white on the back, silver has gold on the back. So you are able to add a little bit more dimension sometimes to your designs by having the two colors with it. So my non-preferred way is to use zip ties. Has anyone ever done this with zip ties before? If so, raise your hand. Okay. So I'll go through the pluses and minuses of both of them. Give me 1 second, I forgot my scissors. And I have two old balloons here and that we used for a wall previously. And I'll show you why I don't like these zip ties. The reason why is because they're a lot rougher on the balloons. And you might be able to see that this one, how it has a tear in the corner. It's pretty much shredded. And what happened is we were delivering and it was a windy day and it just everything kind of like blew apart and it tore a lot of our balloons from the zip tie just because of the strength of the wind. So that's why it's not my preferred method and I prefer to use the glue, because if U glue ends up coming apart, then it's not that big of a deal because I could always reattach it, but I cannot easily fix a hole from a zip tie on site. The plus for doing zip ties, if you don't live in a windy area, is that you're able to put it together ahead of time and then inflate. What I do is I take the corners, and if I want pink side to be forward, then I'm going to bend it backwards. Does that make sense? And the reason I'm bending it more backwards is so that way I'm not pulling the hot pink forward. And then you just literally put the zip tie through.
Okay, I am here with these inflated already. Like, what are you looping that around?
So you're just going around the corners, and this has to be done before it's inflated. So this way I have the corner attached.
You're literally counting on that just staying together by your own loop that you're making.
Yeah, and it does. It does stay together, but
Okay.
so what happens though is if you have a lot of wind, is that sometimes it ends up tearing the balloons. Like the balloon will literally rip before the zip tie is going to come apart. So what you would do is zip tie all four corners. And then that's nice because you can almost lay out your entire wall ahead of time and then inflate everything. So that way then once you go through and you inflate your wall, it's already going to be attached. So that is the zip tie method. I just wanted to show how that's done, but that's not my preferred method just because we did have one shred using these. So
And
I was
okay,
like,
so you also have like you cut the zip tie on the end. You probably cut it really close to the actual like notch, but would like that feels like that could also rip the foil.
yeah, so it does rest the foil. So again, then once I have that, you're just going to like have them together. So for the edges, and then you take your zip tie, come around, pull this here.
Okay, so you're just yanking that as tight as you can. Okay.
Yeah, and then you would just inflate them. So you could put all of your squares together. So now we have, two, but you could do your entire wall together and then go in and inflate.
Okay. Do people use this method more for tunnels?
So some people prefer to zip tie and some people prefer to glue. But you could
Okay.
do it for tunnels. You could do either one for tunnels or for walls. It's just your personal preference. Again, the pro of it is that it goes together so much more quickly than using glue, and it's also a less expensive way to do it because glue is, very expensive, as we all know. You need more glue strips. You need it to be a little bit more temperature controlled because it can't be cold. So this way, is a little bit faster. But again, we live in a very windy area. So I tried it once and I'll never try it that way again. Because what happened is then I had ones that tore that were in the center. And I ended up having to replace a lot more because I had to cut out all of those corner balloons and then put them in with glue anyway. And I think that I ended up losing like 4 of them on my wall, which was pretty significant.
Okay.
So for me, it's just not the way, especially when it was good product. So it's just not the way that I prefer to do it, but it is a way that a lot of people do it. So I wanted to show it really quickly because again, it's something that holds true. I think that if we weren't in such a windy area, then it probably would have been a little bit better, but we're in an extremely windy area. Okay. So
Okay.
what I do is I inflate all of my foils first. And I prefer to use Foil Pro. That's just a personal preference because it's a little bit easier. It is a premium product. You can use your twin if you have one of those. You just want to make sure that you have a foil adapter on it and that you don't overinflate. But these are nice because they don't pop the balloons because they stop when they get full. So.
Is that quiet or like did you go on mute? Is it quiet? No. Okay. All right. You must be on mute. All right.
Noisy machine, I think that Zoom just buzzes it out so you can't hear anything. Well, this one
Oh,
is
got it. Okay. I was like,
starting
there's
to
no
go down
way.
a little bit, but this is probably a me problem because we decided to do this with only a week and I was using what I had in stock. So just let me know. Um,
So I have this like heavy duty glue strip like this. I think this is U glue. Is this what you use, Alyssa? This like big fat strip.
okay, here we go.
You probably didn't hear anything I just said, but is this the kind of strip that you're using? Is this like one big glue strip?
It is not what I use. I'm going to
Okay.
check this one. This one we have, and I have a really, really low failure rate with them. But one of the tricks that I do is, see, this one has a tear in it. So it was probably like we didn't have it stored correctly, not that it was a Tuftex failure. So,
Okay.
but what does sometimes happen is I prefer when I work with squares is we inflate everything that we need ahead of time just because it is difficult in order to attach it when I get there. So if you end up having like any bad balloons, you don't want to inflate everything, attach everything, and then you're looking at it the next day and you have one bad one that's in the middle because you might have, 40 balloons and only have one bad one, but it's really difficult to kind of get it out. You do have to like just cut it out as close as you can and hope that you don't lose any others next to it. So because of that, I do prefer to inflate a day ahead. And sometimes you do end up having one that goes down a little bit and it's soft. And if that happens, then I just don't use that one because the other ones that are inflated, they have always stayed good for me, or I've never had anything go down during an event if it lasted overnight. Does that make sense? So it's just like one of those little precautions that I use.
Do you seal them any other way than they're already, like, it's just like, it's a self-sealing valve.
Self-sealing. I don't do anything else.
You
So
don't do anything
I
else.
just inflate it and then put them all in a bag and then wait until I'm good. Okay. Then what I do is I use U-glue, which are in the boxes like this. And I use the strips. I don't use dashes. The reason that I use strips is because they're a little bit bigger. So I'm going to have more room for adhesion. See, they're like a 2-inch strip.
Mhm.
And I'm going to show how to put it together, but I want to show this one first. So you could, when you look at it, it has a little bit of a curve that comes up. So this part in the center isn't really touching, it's not flush. So where I'm going to place my adhesive is going to be in the corners, right here and right here. And then on the inside parts of the wall where they're going to attach, I put them again up here and down here.
Okay, Chelsea asked, and you inflate them to firm, like 90% full? You have that machine that kind of stops it, right? So like pretty full, more than
I
90.
go pretty full. The only time that I don't go all the way full is if I'm going to be transporting it during the summer, just because it could blow in my van. And if that's the case, then I first with doing a wall, if it's going to be in summer, I see if I can get in a day ahead of time. And if I can't get in a day ahead of time, then what I do is I make everything I make everything still at least a day ahead, but I only fill up the balloons about 3/4 of the way. And I just leave my tabs out. And then I use my hand pump to fill them the rest of the way once it's together on site. So, and I'll talk about that in a second. That was going to be one of the tips that I give. Okay, so working with U-glue, does everybody here work with the U-glue strips before?
I have not used those. I am over here cutting these strips off of this bigger roll that I have. It is the stickiest stuff I've ever seen. Like you can't even get the scissors off of it. Sometimes it's so sticky, which makes me feel more confident because it's like very sticky. Sometimes those glue dots are just not like strong enough. Obviously, latex to latex, it's like this thing's gonna pop if I try to mess with this. But this stuff's insanely sticky. I don't even, I'll look up what this is, but I think it's a form of U-glue.
Okay, so when I do it, I cut mine in half and I put it over the seam. So that way I have a little bit of leeway in each of the corners. So I have one piece here and one piece here. If it's not sticking to the balloon, which I don't really have a problem with the Tuftex ones, but you know how sometimes adhesive just doesn't stick to a balloon. What you could do is use either like rubbing alcohol. You could use an alcohol wipe and go over the area, or else you could use hand sanitizer and go over the area and dry it. That takes a little bit of the paint off, and then the U-glue is going to work better for you. These stick very, very well for it as long as it's pretty warm. So, but U-glue is temperature controlled. We also are in an area where it's not always warm. And sometimes even in a venue, it gets really cold, but they always stick better when they're hot. So crazy, but what I do is I literally, if it's not sticking, is I put them in my bra because the body heat warms them up. And I have U-glue and dashes in my bra all of the time. And then I just like pull out the pieces I need it, and then it's going to be a lot stickier and you're not going to have the problem with it. So just like warm up the adhesive if you're having an issue because the room is either too cold or else you're outdoors. I saw that Dominique said something, but I couldn't see what she actually said.
Oh, someone just asked what roll you're using. I will look it up and put it in the link here. You have to get the non-stick scissors, and Dominic said I would have never thought of that.
Oh, I've never used non-stick scissors. These scissors are from the dollar store. So we use scissors all the time.
Okay, so I'm adding these on to follow along. And this is like, I would say almost a 2-person job, just because they're so big, you know? like they're like flopping around. So I'm trying to stick them both to each other. I just stuck like you did, one on each corner, right?
Yeah, and the thing with U-glue is once it cures, and it takes overnight in order to cure, but once it cures, like you're not getting the foils apart without tearing them or ripping them. So it's not just going to pull apart. So one of the other things that I really like to do is sometimes do this ahead of time. And then I go ahead and I come back to it, or else I'll put my glue on all of them and then I'll come back to it and peel it off. Because if you're ever peeling and you notice that it's starting to come up, then it means that it either needs to be warmed up or else that it just needs to cure a little bit longer. So the other thing that I do, any questions on that from anyone? Let's see. Press
Okay.
firmly. Yeah, press firmly and sometimes rub it. So if you rub it, then that helps too. So when I do these, I just really make sure that they're lined up seam to seam because you don't want it to be crooked.
Is that
And I
you know,
usually press and hold it for about 5 seconds. So I'm like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So now I have these pieces that are stuck to each other.
okay.
I'm going to go too wide today since we're just doing it for demonstration and then show how I attach a garland to it. But I normally go at least 3 wide.
So I mistakenly put these like valve to valve instead of like all the valves down, but now I'm kind of thinking like I could tie these valves together for like a little more security.
So
And then I don't know, would you do that? And then like these holes, hole to hole?
would I do that? No.
No,
So
because
because
you want the space, right? You want the space?
well, I do it because if I ever need to go in and if I have to add more air, then I like for all the valves to be facing one direction. And I like for them all to be on the bottom. So that way I could access them a little bit more easily, especially if I'm going to be adding more air, if I'm transporting it. So if I say it was warm out and I only filled them 3/4 of the way, and then I'm building it, and then I'm able to go in and attach all my valves.
Okay. All right.
So
I'm not
I normally tend to build these into squares of 4 if I'm doing it 4 wide, or else I just do rows of 3 if I'm doing you know 6 wide or just one that has rows. So I'll have this row built. Then I have this row built. I'm going to move my airflow out of the way because I'm not using it anymore. Foil row, sorry. Now I'm going to take this row, and again, I make sure that my valves are down. So I'll show you, like your question, Alexis, I'll show you what I do next. So first I like to stick the middle ones. So I just pull it in, and then I have some pressure. So I like use my body to hold it.
Mhm.
And then push in and push against my body and hold it a little bit.
Okay.
Get that pressure, and then I line up my corners. Hold that corner.
Okay. So you like to do like blocks of 4 is a better method, right? So,
That's my preferred method, but it's just like if I'm only going 3 wide, then I'll just do my full row of 3 and then I'll attach my next row of 3. But I do like to work in evens because then when I have a block, it's easy for me to attach a block to a block instead of just like attaching them all one at a time. I find that it goes a little bit faster when I get to the final assembly.
okay.
So because I have this block, and then I'm going to take it and I'm going to put my U-glue strips on the top of that. I'm going to do on this row. So again, put it in the corners. of the far corners. But then this strip I'm not going to cut. I'm going to take the whole strip. And just lay it across both balloons. Like that in the center. So that way it's
Okay.
covered in both of them.
Okay. For the next layer up. I would say this is quite a bit of labor.
It is. And you can see I already have a little tiny piece of glue on this one.
Uh-huh.
That probably I ended up, I was intending on this one being the bottom, going to be the top. Okay. So I'm going to again start in the middle and take my hand and press firmly down. Line up my one corner. And line up this corner. And again, it might come apart right now, but it's not going to come apart. After the glue cures, it's going to rip before it comes apart. And then I'm going to make sure that all of these are in the back for my valves.
All of them are on the back for your what?
All of my valves are in the back. They're not sticking in the front, but they're currently accessible.
Okay.
So but I like to pack these little ones. I already put glue on it. What I do is I pull that up and I press it in and attach it to the valve that was down. So that way it does give it that extra security stop. And I had already put it on those ones. For this, it's tinier, so I could use a little bit less of a strip. And even though this is the same manufacturer as the glue dashes, let me grab my box of that. So it's the same product, but the glue dashes, I just find that the U-glue is a little bit more sticky.
Okay.
And I'm going to take it, you just put it on the front of each of these little tabs. And then
Okay. I would say that I'm not as accurate as you, but it still looks okay. It's still looking.
Yeah, that's just practice.
I didn't get it as like quite as good aligned here. And I think maybe I need to add a little bit of air, but it's coming along okay.
The first time we made one, it took us so long. It wasn't perfect. And I usually work with a flat. I would never, in practical life, hold it up like this, like I am for video.
Okay.
Because it's going to make it a little bit less secure. It's easier to work with it flat on the floor. But so then I stick all those together. So then that just gives that additional attachment point in the center for each of them. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Yeah, wait, can you say that one more time? You attached.
I take the little tiny tab that's on top.
Uh-huh.
So this one that's on top, I put glue on the back side of it. So on the pink side, and then I stick that to the top part of the valve that it's sticking to, and again, hold it. So that way it just gives that additional attachment point in the center.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, so if I do a wall and I'm only going 4 high, then I completely air fill it. If I'm going 5 balloons high, then I use 60-40 helium on the top one. That's again just a personal choice. I know some people who do the entire thing in air, and that's great, but I just feel like it gives it that tinier bit of lift, so it makes it a little bit easier for me to set up. So considering that it doesn't use that much helium, it just ends up working for me because I do what I'm building out for my design for price wise. I price it at $10 per foil. So, and then for a tunnel, I end up pricing it at 15 per foil, just because I know that I'm going to be using more helium and that it is going to be a little bit more labor intensive to set it up. Like a wall is pretty easy in comparison to a tunnel.
Mhm.
Some people talk about in order to save the helium on a tunnel, because again, you'll go up 4 with all air and then you'll start to use the helium, but they checkerboard it, which means that they would have this one be air, this one be helium, this one be air when they get to the top. But I find that I've had like a little bit of a sag on it once when I did that. And part of the reason why is because we were directly under a huge like air conditioning vent in the casino. So it was just like blowing down on it hard all night. And since we did have it more checkerboarded, it didn't give as much lift as it should have. So
Mhm.
you might want to do a site visit. And if that's the fact, you could use 100% helium on it, all of it. But since that point, I just use 60-40 on all of them instead of doing some of them with, no helium and some of them with 100% helium. I just feel like that's also a little bit easier for me to, then I don't have to worry about which ones were which if I were, putting it together on site. So,
Or like one of them flying up to the ceiling.
yeah, exactly. So I like to do it with the 60-40 on all of those, and then I'll, again, attach it. And a tunnel is exactly the same as a wall. It's just bigger, and then you push it together. Okay,
Okay.
so any questions on that? So,
No, I guess so. So what are the combos of sizes you would use? So last night I measured out 5 up by 3 across. And I think that's a nice backdrop size. It's kind of like a little bit bigger than some of my wooden walls. So it was like 7 feet 4 inches by 4 feet 4 inches. And that was like I pushed them together so like as close as I could get to an accurate measurement. So that's kind of a nice like rectangular one. Or I think you could do like 5 by 5, which would be 7 by 4 by 7 by 4, so almost just a little under 8 feet. So that's a nice size. What do you have there?
yeah, I do like to, hold on, I got to recall, so now we're backwards. So did you see me the right way or are we backwards too?
No, no, you're good.
Okay, you're sideways for me though. So there we go.
Oh,
Oh, did I totally lose you?
no, no, you're
Oh,
you're
okay.
horizontal, which works.
Okay, so this is about 6 foot tall when I go 4 high. So because I'm only like 5'2", 5'3.5" maybe with shoes on.
Okay.
So if I was doing one that has, and what I do when I tuck in either my heavy bases and then a piece of conduit, or else I use lamp poles. For this size, I could use my 5-foot lamp pole because it's not too tall, but otherwise I'm going to, just go a little bit taller. So if I'm going up to 8 foot, then I, like to have at least a 7-foot piece of conduit tucked into it, or else I build up the lamp bases. I do find that lamp bases sometimes get a little bit light for that. So I like to use a heavier base that then has the conduit inside it. That's just, again, personal preference. Or else what you could do is, slide like one of those 10-pound dumbbell weights. I'm talking about like the barbell weights over it. That's sometimes how we give that a little bit more weight. What's nice about using the lamp base is that you don't really see it. But whenever I do a section, I do it at least one for every 3 rows gets a base. So if I was going 5 across, I would use 2. If I was doing 6 across, I would also use 2. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then I just in, hold it where it needs to be. And I press it in pretty tight. And see with this, I go through it around. Where because again, we love it and it's so easy for you to make beautiful stuff. Okay, now the question. If someone has a question, I'm going to do the very bottom 2. Again, no, there's something on the side cut. You have all those.
And that's just like gaffer's tape, or is that duct tape?
I don't use gaffer's tape for this because it's not adhesive enough. So this is duct tape.
Duct tape. Yeah, I tend to use duct tape on my foils. It just works so well.
And then I'm going to H tape it, but I always do just like the little ones to kind of get lined up first. Right at the H's. And I do that as close to the fold as possible. And again, they do have, I don't have it here, it's at my warehouse, but the crystal clear Gorilla duct tape. And so if you're going to be possibly seeing the backside, again, if it's a tunnel, you want to use conduit because it's smaller, it'll tuck in, you're not going to see it. And then I would use the crystal clear tape so that you're not seeing, that way you're not seeing any of the mechanics. Whereas this would be, for the backside. But again, I would probably use clear just so that you're not looking at it. But it's not good to demonstrate things with clear tape because nobody could see what you're doing. Yeah, so I just do it like an H in each of the sections, the back. Okay. Does anybody have any questions on that?
No. Okay, I would say this is going pretty well. Mine are not as inflated. They're inflated, but I would want them a little bit tighter, but I've got 6 now. Let's see. But I'm like, yeah. Can you see?
Yeah, it looks good.
Looks pretty good. I don't know, like, would you just leave it like that? Or like, because I have all the valves here, I could add a little bit more. But then I'm
No, I
like,
think that looks good.
the valve. Right?
Okay, so then the next thing that people ask about is how do you attach your garland to it?
Yeah.
And I use these clear hooks.
Oh, nice. Okay. That makes it easy.
Yeah, so that's what I like to do for it. Let me get my step stool, and then I have a garland that I saved from the weekend that I'm going to put up. And it was outdoors, so it looks awful. But I'm going to use high shine because even though these balloons were outdoors, the high shine is going to shine it right back up to where it needs to be. So when I do the hooks, I'm going to put them on the back side. Right there at the top. I usually like to have that those 3. This one I'm going to put right on the side. Just on the back side of the seam.
Mhm.
And I'd like to get these a minute to cure, because otherwise they're going to come off. Other thing is, I don't go up and down. Like, I don't go like this way when I put my books on inside, I go sideways. So that way the pressure is pulling it sideways, so it's less likely to pull it off.
Okay.
And on that side, I'm going to have it on so that it's facing this way. So that way, any pressure, it's coming against the round part of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And you're just knotting a 260, wrapping that around a balloon, right?
I like 260s.
Say that one more time.
I don't like rubber bands. That's just, again, we sometimes use rubber bands. We use rubber bands for certain things. Like we use rubber bands for duplet walls and for some sculptures, but we don't use them for,
No, I said you take a 260 and you loop it on the hook, and then you loop that 260 around a balloon, or do you do something different? Can you hear me?
didn't see that.
Okay.
I think I did 60s. And I tied to it. Calculate. If you're outdoors, I mean, the first is very small, we all know that. It's just more demonstration, but I would definitely make sure that you have at least 2 bases outdoors because you don't want it to fit it. Like this is going to twist a little bit, so try to flat. You could always do a freestanding garland that's on a frame and just set it next to it. So we have to attach it to the wall.
Mm-hmm.
It's indoors, I attach it to it. Outdoors, I'm definitely going to be doing something freestanding. Just because I don't want to have any truck around it. It's like how for keys, I attach my balloons to the right and not to the left keys for the same reason.
Can you guys hear Alissa okay?
It's using quality balloons. I have to say that literally has been made over a week ago, transported twice. It's just going to be able to go on and look on and still look up. It's crazy.
She's a bit muffled.
Yeah.
Alissa, can you speak up a little bit?
What?
Can you speak up a little bit?
Speed up or speak up?
Speak up louder.
Usually people say I'm too loud, not loud enough.
Oh, there you go. I think just because you're so far from the
Yeah.
computer.
Okay. So I was just saying that these are all balloons that were up and outside all weekend. So I'm just going to put them up and we're going to start them. But you could do, I should have not finished this one. Like this would have been really cute and a good size on top of it. Trying to see what that would look like. This is one of our just freestanding little bubbles.
I actually really like the contrast of the metallic look of the squares, but then also like the really soft, like I know obviously the balloons are oxidized, but the softness of the balloons, that kind of like goes really nicely together.
I am going to shine it just so it looks pretty terrible. Then we just down up to 60s. Usually we put our flare on when we get there. It's just a preferred way of doing it. So then I use the other part of the 260 in order to check my flare. Or go one hand down and one hand up. You know, every time I talk about don't take any shortcuts because you take one shortcut and it's always the thing. When I was doing that, the only one that came apart, and it was because you couldn't see it, was the one that I didn't H tape, that I just did the tape straight across.
On the
And
bottom
that's,
or
yeah, on the back. And that's just what happens, is it's like, it needs to be an H tape. If you just do one piece of tape across the back, it's going to pop off of your frame. If you do an H tape, then it's going to stay in place. So that's just how, every single time how it is.
yeah.
It just always cracks me up because we're always, oh, well, you know, I'm just so bad. So everybody knows I'm H tape now. So like, H tape. Turn out that when it comes at that. So now my eye is sticking out of the back. So let me fix that. I'm going to fix that really quick. Always H tape.
So those of you who are on, do you offer this today or are you considering offering this now? If you don't want to talk, you can put it in the chat.
I do offer it, but it's still like I still debate on pricing because it's so much work, to be honest. It looks stunning and I feel people love it, but in my area, there's no way they'll pay for it. At least, unless it's a high-end client, I've done like 4th of July, I did the ones. I unfortunately had to get the Amazon ones because I couldn't get the right colors on Tuftex. And those do have the tying on the ends. But if you don't tape it, you can see like they just, flare up. There's a space in between the balloons. And I didn't want to glue them because it was outdoors. It was super windy out here in the IE during 4th of July. We were having like 45-mile winds. So I didn't tape it because I was scared that if there was an air just running through it, that it was just gonna, rip. And since it was gonna be right next to a pool, I was like, yeah, no, I don't want a lawsuit.
Yeah, I would have thought that the tape would have been less reliable than the zip ties, but I mean where Alyssa is, it's windy too. So maybe with like this thicker tape might be an option.
Hmm.
But yeah, I see what you're saying. So Ropa mentioned maybe during the holidays for like New Year's. And then Cecile said she wants to do it for Christmas. She got on late. The recording will be available later. But yeah, the holidays, this could be like really like a festive thing for people willing to spend a little bit more, maybe corporate clients who want more of that wow factor. This, I mean, just the metallics of it feel like more like a nighttime event, higher end, right? So um, I don't know. Alyssa, how does this do like outside during the day? Because it is like very reflective. Obviously, we use like a little bit of foils here and there, but a whole wall of it. How how's that in your opinion with the sun? Okay, she can't hear me. Anybody else have any thoughts on that? I've put a shimmer wall outside before and I was like, oh, this was a terrible idea. It's just like shining right in people's faces. So I don't know if I don't know if it's that shiny. Okay, she's still futzing with it.
I don't think, well, I think it depends on the color, you
Mm-hmm.
know, because I did for the 4th of July, I did try not to use as much silver, and the pinks, I know for sure they're not that reflective.
Mm-hmm. And Hannah's saying she wants more Tuftex colors. What colors do you want? We can mention it to them. Green and red for Christmas. Okay.
Yeah, that'd be really pretty. Okay.
Yeah, they
So
definitely need a red.
I think
Yeah.
they just need to do all the colors because I think there's always a reason to have a solid color for sports teams and
Hmm.
tunnels and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay, does anyone know how long these have been around?
Maybe
Just the
like
last
two
couple years.
years.
Yeah, just the last couple years, right?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
started with the pinks when Barbie was like a big thing,
Mm-hmm.
and then they did the silvers after that, but it hasn't been very long.
Mm-hmm.
And they do have the black and white. Those are cool.
Yeah.
I've done all silver for my romantic disco look too. It's really nice. We've done a few, but we also did the pink ones for the Barbie theme when they were bigger last year. And we did these colors from, that's why I said these colors left over. Like different pink parties as well. When, do you guys remember when like Preppy was trending? With like all the checks. So,
Mhm. So the way that she styled this is actually, this kind of can work a better price point. So people who are not willing to do the full wall, like this is a nice offering to just do like a mini wall, you know? And then you can also combo this with other backdrops if someone wants just to have like more depth, more variety in their styling. I like that.
Yeah, I like to, because we use the pink one, it also looks cute with like holes next to it.
Alyssa, it's hard to hear you. Sorry. Can you talk this way?
It also looks really cute with party poles next to it. So that way, if you don't want to attach directly to your wall. Again, if you have two bases, going to stick forward and then style it instead of thick. So, okay, so I'm going to shine this really quick because it's looking pretty pathetic. Hi, that shine. Just okay, sort of thick color. Just you can see how then we have the shine from the wall
Mhm.
and shine from the balloons.
Yeah, that looks good.
It's bit matte.
You need that second pole. Voila. Looks good.
Yeah, looks medium. Just the flare is all.
Oh, it's a little old, right? All good. Okay.
So I like pull all my flare forward instead of having that be backwards. Except to look backwards. Yeah, but the wall it's really easy. It's super versatile. If you could use them really with anything as the tunnel, as the backdrop wall, with columns, with garland on its own. You could also put, it takes vinyl really well, so it's nice to be able to add logo into the center for it. So you could either company brand these or put their whatever type of event is going on for it on there. You know, happy birthday, just whatever the theme. You could do Barbie symbols. You could do, you know, little Christmas trees, but it just takes it really well.
With the I guess it depends on the strength of that pole, but like is there any way you could hang an LED sign from there?
I would hang it from the pole. I would not hang it from the foils.
So if you have the pole coming out from the top, you can hook it around the top and then just let it hang over and you think it would be fine?
I think so. I haven't tried it. We've always just done vinyl on the balloons. But if I was going to hang anything, it would not be from the balloons. It would be from the structure.
Right.
So, obviously.
Okay. Any other things that we need to know about things going wrong? So like say one of those middle ones, if it pops or whatever, you're gonna literally go in, cut it out. You have a backup with you, you shove it in there. I mean, obviously it's probably trickier if it's like in between other squares.
Yeah, so what you need to do, if you have it, is you need to like cut it as close to the pieces as possible, like that. So that way the rest of it remains inside. So I would cut out the bad one, like so, in the wall. And then I would bring the other piece in, always with U glue, and I would push it just into it as it's already up. Or before we placed it up and styled anything else on it. Because it does get difficult to style with it, with things on it, just because one of the downfalls is if you lose one, you could start to get a tiny bit of sag. But if it's really structured well, then it's going to maintain, and just that one balloon is going to have a tiny bit of shrinkage on it, whereas everything else will stay in place.
Okay. And then as far as, so these are all looking okay, but there are some that are a little bit softer than others. So if I pumped in some air with my hand pump, would you press and roll the valve? Like how are you going to ensure, like even your bottom left one looks a little less tight than some of your others?
I think that one's actually losing a little bit of air. So
Uh-huh.
for it, but is why, because that one is just a tiny bit more wrinkly than the others are.
Right. So would you, I mean, you're already set, say the event starts in 2 minutes. Are you going to replace that thing? Or are you going to just like pump it full of air and like try to roll the valve and tape it? What's your plan with that?
So if that happens, well, this one has a tiny little tear, that's right. What I do is I go up, I put 5-inch on a stick. And put it into the valve. Give that a little pop. And then I take it and I tie it. But that's what I do. I put a balloon inside the valve and then tie it off. Is how I try to, which works like, again, 80 to 90% of the time. Sometimes we heat seal it if we bring our heat sealer, because we usually have one with us. So then we'll fill it and then we'll heat seal it on the valve to try to prevent the leakage. We'll put a 5-inch balloon in the valve after it's inflated and tie it off. It's just, those are really our methods for saving foils.
Okay. All right. We're at the top of the hour. Does anybody